Welcome, I'm Regina Rowland and I'm introducing you to our SDG course series. We produce this series for organizations of all kinds that wish or need to design potential contributions for the Agenda 2030. There are 18 sets, one for each SDG, and this introductory set. Each set takes you through a certain repeating routine, from defining the SDG to its targets and measures, the global report on the respective SDG, some European statistics on its status in Europe, and then to country-specific information. The main goal, however, is to inspire action in educational institutions, municipalities, and organizations of all kinds. So that means businesses, not-for-profit organizations, NGOs, etc. After elaborating on potential contributions, learning activities and reflection opportunities bring it home. So let's look at what the SDGs really are. The main goal of the SDGs is the transformation of our world through the Agenda 2030. Now, what is that? The Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development was adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015. It provides a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and planet, now and into the future. At its heart are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, which are an urgent call for action by all countries, developed and developing, in a global partnership. They recognize that ending poverty and other deprivations must go hand in hand with strategies that improve health and education, reduce inequality, and spur economic growth, all while tackling climate change and working to preserve our oceans and forests. So what is sustainability? There's a very nice short definition that is the foundation for all the work that we've been doing for over 30 years in this respect. There's the Brundtland Report from 1987, and it defines sustainability as sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. What are the political frameworks for sustainability? So 193 UN member states agreed in 2015 as a global community to the Agenda 2030 for reaching systemic sustainability in the world, known as the SDGs. They supersede the Millennium Goals that focus only on developing countries. So now everybody in the world is part of this. Embedded in the SDGs is also the Paris Agreement, also agreed upon in 2015 through COP21, for limiting global warming to well below 2, preferably to 1.5 degrees Celsius, compared to pre-industrial levels. And this connects to a number of SDGs, especially SDG 13, climate change. Now, what is the Green Deal? The Green Deal is Europe's action plan for the Paris Agreement. Climate change and environmental degradation are an existential threat to Europe and the world, and we have already noticed that, simply by how our weather has changed and the conditions for growing food. To overcome these challenges, the European Green Deal will transform the EU into a modern, resource-efficient and competitive economy, ensuring no net emissions of greenhouse gases by 2050, economic growth decoupled from resource use, and no person and no place left behind. So how does all this hang together? Here's a very nice model that's a nested SDG Holons model from the Stockholm Resilience Organization. There are more than one model around for thinking about how the SDGs work together and how all these levels of work that we need to do interconnect. This one in particular shows the natural hierarchy. So you can see here that the biosphere is at the bottom. These are the conditions on planet Earth that we all need to adhere to in order to have life continue as we know it for all living beings. And out of those conditions, we then grow a society that has certain needs and behaviors. And out of that socio-cultural soup we call society, then we can grow particular systems like an economy that then allows us to do our work and life as we wish. And then for the SDGs in particular, the Agenda 2030, global partnerships are central to all the change that needs to happen. So you can see here what are the most important things that are like priority number one, and then it goes up in those levels. Of course, we know we have to put action into all of those simultaneously, but there are some that if we don't do them, we don't need to worry about the others because we simply won't be able to survive it. Good, so now let's look at how to manage sustainability. The first step would be to develop a sustainability strategy with strategic and operational goals. So that's the planning stage. Step 2 would be then to develop and act upon an implementation plan to realize, track, and measure the goals that we planned for. That includes audits and certifications because they guarantee or help you make sure that you're going in the right direction. The next step then includes reporting on the achievement of the goals. And another step that continuously goes on is to revisit sustainability strategy frequently and adjust the goals as needed. What's important at this particular time in our human history is to continuously watch for emergence and respond to changing dynamics in a timely manner. What we need for that is an understanding of system dynamics so that we can embody the highest degree of flexibility for acting upon emerging patterns. Because the dynamics are now very volatile, and in a way we can't really plan for all the things that are currently happening that we already know about in terms of climate change. And so we need to act upon to the reality that we're faced with. How do we get to a sustainability strategy and implementation? On slide 10, you can see a few systems that you can employ for that. These are not all of them, but these are the most going ones. So like, for instance, the Global Compact, the SDG Compass, Circular Economy Principles, Economy for the Common Good process, B Corp process, and Respect in Austria in particular. And for educational institutions, you could use PRIME to get started. What are sustainability audits and certifications? There's many of them. So globally, you could look into the ISO standards. There's many of them that are relating to sustainability, and others. And then there's the Economy for the Common Good balance audit that you could use. In Europe in particular, we have the EMAS certification. And in Austria, we have particular standards that we are supposed to follow. For instance, we have the ONR 192-500 that relates to corporate social responsibility, and the eco-label that we can also use. So these certifications we can use to keep on track. What kind of sustainability reporting systems are there? So there's globally the GRI, the Global Reporting Initiative. That when you use that system, you can compare your organization to all other organizations on the planet that use that system. And in Europe, we have in particular the CSRD, that's the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, and a new one will be coming out in 2022 that then gives a mandate to all organizations in Europe that they must complete a sustainability report according to a particular standard that shows us the progress that we all are making and also allows us to compare that progress to other organizations in Europe. This directive has already been in place for a couple of years, and it applied only to organizations that employ more than 500 employees. The new directive will then drop that number to 250. So then all organizations that have more than 250 employees will have to lay a sustainability report. That will then change the landscape drastically, because that includes many, many more organizations across Europe. On slide 13, you can see a system that allows you to monitor the progress towards the SDGs in the EU context in particular. So I invite you to go to that site and check out the resources there. So now let's look at how we design contributions. Before we do that, we call into our minds the core purpose of the particular organization we work with, and also who the stakeholders are, internal and external. And then in particular, how this SDG that we're working on impacts the organization. And at the same time, what challenges and costs emerge for this organization from that impact. On the other hand, what opportunities or benefits arise. And when we have all that in our heads, then we can think about designing internal and external actions. The internal actions are those that are fully in control of the organization, and the external actions are those that require other people to work with the organization on those goals. And of course, the organization doesn't control the actions of those other people, but it might impact what they are willing to do. Slides 16 and 17 show you what kind of activity will repeat in all the SDG sets. That allows you then to, after you've learned the process of designing contributions or have seen examples thereof, to think about your own organization or an organization of your choice and go through the same kind of motion. And then to double check your designs against the sustainability measures. Further down the road, the set takes you to an opportunity to reflect upon your learning and gives you more resources. Eventually, you'll end up in the SDG journey, where we ask you to put on your SDG glasses and go into your own environment and look for evidence of what's happening in your environment for this SDG, or violations that would make it harder to achieve that particular SDG, or mitigations to reduce the impact. And also for new possibilities, how you might think of it. But it asks you to go out into your own environment and check it all out, and then document what you're finding. And the last SDG set, 17, will then ask you to wrap it all together. Then, of course, we have the legal information for you, how you might use these sets. We're giving this away with a Creative Commons license, so you can really use it, adapt it, change it, however it works for you. We've designed it so that it's really useful. There are no barriers how you might use it, and we invite you to really take advantage of that offer. At the very end, you have all the sources mentioned in one place for all the resources we used for designing this particular set. So I hope you will be able to use our sets for your own designs, and that you that you enjoy going through the learning, and that you will find this a valuable resource for your work. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'll see you again in another SDG set. Bye-bye.